We've almost had the 4 added minutes. Adeyemi releasing this one. Schlotterbeck. Over it comes, and Modeste is there for Dortmund. Ay, ay, ay. Absolute bedlam. And there is drama for you. Anthony Modeste, who missed an excellent chance earlier, comes up with the all-important equaliser in stoppage time.
Well, just watch the work of Schlotterbeck here. When the ball gets played into the box, he chases it, he keeps it in, he keeps his composure, and then just picks out the perfect cross. And Modeste, having missed one big chance, he can't miss this one. It's a good finish, he took up a good position, but Schlotterbeck has to take the credit. And what a comeback by Borussia Dortmund.
Agony for Oliver Kahn. Looking on from the Tribune of Honour. Ecstasy for Edin Terzic and all the Borussia Dortmund fans.
Hello and welcome to episode 431 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's dramatic comeback against Bayern, and we will preview tomorrow's Champions League game against FC Sevilla. For all that and more, joins me Lars Pollmann. Hello Lars, how are you doing?
Hello Stefan, I appreciate the pause while you were thinking about whom to introduce first.
Yeah, I don't know if that was really much of a pause, but since I know you do online racing or racing games, I know that you live between the split seconds, so I'll allow it. Also here is Konstantin Eckner. Hello Konstantin, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm also here.
Yeah.
What is going on?
It is very great to have you both here because it was a great game, especially a great ending. And, I would argue that Borussia Dortmund did win 2-2, but of course, we need to start from the beginning. And, maybe even with the lineup, because we had Niklas Süle play as a right back because Thomas Meunier could not make the game due to a private matter. And then you had Schlotterbeck and Hummels form the center back, and I don't think there was a lot of surprise that Edin Terzic went with 3 players in midfield with Bellingham, Can and Özcan, and then of course Malen, Moukoko and Brandt, the front trio, if you will. Now, obviously, we all know that Julian Nagelsmann after the game said that Borussia Dortmund were the better team in the first half, and it was not the most eventful first half. However, Konstantin, why is that Borussia Dortmund was relatively good in this first half and only conceded from the one and only shot, as far as I recall, that Bayern had until that moment?
Well, of course, Bayern were pretty bad. As per usual, I almost wanted to say, that kind of the narrow formation approach by Nagelsmann hasn't been fully working out, especially recently. I think there have been some issues on Bayern's end, and you could see it again. I mean, once they started to play a little bit more with stretch passes and longer passes, I think it worked better for them. But this short doesn't really work that well in spades, at least. And Dortmund defended quite well. I mean, it was kind of a defensive approach. I was even with Meunier possibly in the squad, I was actually expecting Süle playing right back. Because you don't have to try to combat Alphonso Davies' speed. Just keep it tight there and have someone who can play a defensive one-on-one, which Süle did quite well, I think, in the first half, first 35 minutes or so against Sadio Mané. And Gnabry was quite well isolated, squeezed in between the center backs and Dortmund center backs, and so there wasn't much to go. But Dortmund were probably a better team in the first 30 minutes, but no shots produced on either side. So it's not like a big win for Dortmund. It was more like they were able to neutralize the game, weren't really productive moving down the field, but at least kept Bayern at bay for the time being until Dortmund actually generated the first shot in the 30th minute, and then 33rd minute. Well, there it went. I mean, it was like any other Dortmund Bayern encounter for the I don't know how many years. And in that case, it was kind of like a 40% goalkeeper error. I don't know, maybe 50% error by Alexander Meyer, who hopefully will not see the field so soon again. He's a little bit overwhelmed by all of it, and there might be a reason he has only played for a year in Regensburg and in Cottbus in recent times. So yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think Dortmund were like the incredibly better team or something like that. They were obviously better or something like that. It was just that in a slow-paced, kind of hesitant game, Dortmund had a bit more ball control, kept Bayern at bay, kept their own defensive zones tight. So that worked well. At least let's say the first match plan, or the match plan for the first 30 or 45 minutes by Edin Terzic worked somewhat well.
Well, I'll be honest, I'll take it. I think you cannot expect from this Dortmund team to, play absolutely world class, especially not in this constellation, and also considering all the players that were once again unavailable. So, Lars, pretty similar question to you. What are you making of this first half? And maybe we can add the flavor of bookings in there, because I think Marcel Sabitzer was booked after 2 minutes, then Matthias de Ligt was booked after 11 minutes, and then after 14 minutes, Jude Bellingham received a booking for what I didn't really think was a foul on Musiala, but since he bundled over in a spectacular fashion, Aitekin did book him as well, and obviously that, as we all know, became a talking point later on. But what do you make of all that?
I'm kind of not surprised at Dortmund showing up in this game. I mean, when we look back at the tenure of Terzic, which is basically almost 1.5 years or whatever it is, after he took over from Favre in 2020, they've basically always showed up in big games. They've not always won, obviously, but remembering, for example, the Champions League exit against Man City during his caretaker spell, remembering now the Man City game this season, a couple of other games. Obviously, they won the cup under Terzic. It seems to me that for the big occasions, they get up, they are on the ball, as it were, and they seem to struggle more in these kind of fixtures where maybe the outside impetus isn't there, and maybe there's more of an internal motivation needed. Obviously, that's a bit of kitchen psychology, but still, kind of didn't think necessarily that they were going to get pumped by Bayern, which is what a lot of people were fearing after Bayern won 4-0 against Leverkusen and then 5-0 or whatever against Pilsen. Given also that it was at Dortmund, these games tend to be close at Dortmund, and the games in Munich are a bit of a different story over the last few years. Not surprised. Let's just say that. And for the bookings, Sabitzer, obvious. De Ligt, obvious. Goretzka would have been obvious, but I think Aitekin smartly decided that he can't go on dishing out bookings for everything, even if warranted, because this kind of fixture you don't want to end up with 10 against 9 or whatever, which I guess by letter of the law would have been possible in this game. The first for Bellingham, I guess you can call it a foul just because of the intensity, and certainly Aitekin wanted to make a decision in favor of Bayern just to get a bit more or get the players off his back a little bit after the first few minutes. The booking, obviously not necessarily the correct decision in my book, but you could argue it saved Dortmund's game, basically, because if the first booking for Bellingham hadn't been too harsh, the second one would most likely have been sending off. But Aitekin basically admitted to the first one being like a possible ammunition, whatever he said.
I have the quote here. I can read it if you want.
Please.
He said, "I can understand anyone who sees it differently. That's football, but you also have to look at the football match as a whole. The first yellow card for Bellingham was in a hectic phase. He received a discretionary yellow, not a stolen one. And in that situation, for me, it was Davis coming from behind with his head down. I didn't have the final conviction to give a second yellow card and ultimately decide a game like that." That's what he said about the Bellingham situation.
Yeah, and I think that makes total sense from a refereeing perspective. As I said, the first booking certainly helped Bellingham in a roundabout way, and also I think the timing, the same situation in the 85th minute, I don't think there's much debate that would have been a second booking, but Aytekin not wanting to decide the game, not wanting to be center of attention. Obviously he still was, by way of not deciding in favor of Bayern, but I think for the better of the game, and that's something that not only Dortmund fans but also neutrals, if that's even something that exists in football, will probably agree on, it was the better call. And I certainly didn't think there was any malicious intent in there. I think Davis lowered his head just enough to say that Bellingham wasn't like 100% at fault for the collision. So I'm also pretty sure that if it had been the other way around, we'd be talking much differently. But I guess, as Aytekin said, that's football.
Yeah, no, I know. If the shoe were on the other foot, let's say it was Kimmich who got the maybe somewhat soft yellow card for the same foul, and then would have, hit a Dortmund player in the head, that he would be sent to the hospital. I would be livid. I know that. I'm well aware, but nevertheless, I still think it is nice for it to be the other way for once, really, because how many times have Bayern Munich been, given the benefit of the doubt, if you will, and how many times have I been sitting here livid about the refereeing calls? So this is a nice change, and it is especially nice because you then see all the vitriol and hate coming from the other side, and you're basically just sitting there sipping your tea. So Lars, I don't know if you're similar to me, but did you take joy or pleasure or anything of these sorts in the way Bayern officials and fans reacted to Aytekin's decision? And I think we even had a live tweet from Oliver Kahn on Aytekin's Doppelpass appearance.
Yeah, I mean, the Kahn stuff and some of what Nagelsmann said. I mean, Nagelsmann said it was a straight red, which, I mean, that's just incorrect and false information that shouldn't be put out there. I mean, in the heat of the moment or immediately after the game with adrenaline still running high, I can accept that. The Kahn stuff on Sunday, midday on Sunday, day after the game, I think it would behoove a CEO of a massive club like Bayern not to live tweet a talk show appearance. It sort of strikes me as Trumpian behavior, if that makes sense. But I also want to say that Nagelsmann did, for example, say that the result was warranted for Dortmund. I think Goretzka, Manuel Neuer. I've seen a lot worse behavior after what for Bayern has been a pretty crushing end to the game, let's say.
just avoided the word defeat.
No, I was looking for another way to put it. I wasn't going to say defeat because I don't believe in moral victories, unlike you, I guess. But I've seen a lot worse, players behave a lot worse, so I was kind of all right with. I mean, as I said, as you agreed also, the other way around, we are still talking about it differently, so I can accept that there's a different viewpoint, and I was kind of almost positively surprised that not too many of those whom we should listen to, because I don't care about Bayern fans on Twitter or whatever, but those we might want to have might want to listen to, they reacted reasonably, I would say, and I don't know necessarily that we can say the same for Dortmund over the last few years, but obviously, as you put it, Stefan, this was, for a lot of Bayern players, probably one of the first times in recent memory where refereeing decisions went against them, in this fixture anyway, and for Dortmund, there's a lot of built-up frustration over the last few years.
Yeah, I constantly think it was the lack of Thomas Müller lobbying in the referee's ears that was the detriment to Bayern, because he was obviously out for this game.
I'm not sure that's the reason. I just think, I mean, when we're talking about the Bellingham situation, I mean, I the funny thing is, like, I had to heat afterwards, as you already explained, Stefan, and you discussed it, Lars. I mean, he said it wasn't, an automatic yellow card or something. He didn't even give a free kick. So, because when I rewatched that scene, I mean, in real time, sometimes, everything looks brutal, basically, especially on like high level football. I don't think Bellingham had any idea that, or had an idea that Davies was coming, but I think it was also somewhat Davies' fault. I mean, to use his head there, I mean, if you go, chest out and try to just, I don't know, touch the ball and get it away there, because it was like kind of a free ball, but it was also not a free ball because it was still there with Bellingham having it and doing his whatever he did there, actually. So, I mean, it's sad that it ended with Davies leaving the game and being transported to the hospital. I mean, that's something, we can joke about it a little bit, not really, because that's not fun. I mean, if it hadn't ended that badly, I would have made probably a joke there. But yeah, he didn't give a free kick. So I guess in the situation, the referee wasn't even convinced that it was really a foul. Funnily enough, I think before the second Dortmund chance, it might have been, there was also a situation between Bellingham and Davies where Bellingham was overpowering Davies and the Canadian was going down and Bellingham was getting the ball and assisting the shot. So and a few minutes later that happened. So whatever. I mean, I don't think it was a yellow card against Bellingham, so that's okay. The Coman yellow card in the end, a lot of Bayern fans and officials were arguing. Oliver Kahn was arguing that, where was the compassion there? So, with Coman. I mean, I get it, right? But it was a tactical foul, so it was a yellow card, and he was outpaced or outmaneuvered in that situation. Tactical fouls, so get the booking, whereas a brutal foul was the tactical one, and so he will be out for the next game, but wasn't more than that. Of course, I mean, then Bayern might be annoyed in a sense with the decisions. On the other hand, I mean, if you look at the game as a whole, and I think we'll continue now discussing the game as a whole, look at the entire like plot of this game, right? Dortmund started quite well, looked like they were on eye level with Bayern, and Bayern score somewhat unnecessary goal, right? I mean, the goalkeeper wasn't really positioned well, and all right, there you go. Bayern are leading. They get out of the locker rooms. Second half, they look much better. Play their long ball style. Musiala is dominating his space. Emre Can had already in the books. Can't really commit to tacklings anymore, which sometimes even helps Emre Can, by the way, because then he can't be like the.
Yeah, he doesn't oversell on every play, basically.
Yeah, right. That he can't go all out on every play. I mean, I sometimes think he should start with a booking. Just before the game starts, you're already in the books, right? No, but I mean, then he was kind of in a weird spot because he likes to be so aggressive. Salih Özcan, not his position, by the way, not his position, and you saw it. Wrong angle against Musiala in the lead up to the second goal. But then there you go, right? Musiala outmaneuvers or uses the space Salih Özcan gives him. Süle, wrong defensive angle against Leroy Sané, right? And then Sané scores that goal, which Alexander Meyer, of course, could have saved. Or another goalkeeper, Jan Sommer against Bayern Munich would have saved that shot, of course. I mean, obviously, because it's Jan Sommer against Bayern then. But still, so Bayern scored 2 goals with twice the goalkeeper not looking really good there, and some situations not working out for Dortmund was the plot for a typical Bayern win at Dortmund, right? And even when Dortmund scored the 2-1, even then, I mean, it felt like Bayern will win this game, and 80,000 Dortmund fans will leave the stadium kind of in a lethargic state, and they are like, all right, once again we are not good enough. But then again, Anthony Modeste, my God, who's the best? Anthony Modeste.
Lars, let's talk about the second half, because I think we need to talk about all the changes that happened. Mats Hummels for Dortmund had to come off because he just wasn't fit enough to see out this game. So Marius Wolf came on, and with that, Süle and Schlotterbeck were once again the center backs. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nagelsmann had even 3 changes. At halftime, he brought on Kimmich and Coman, probably because they just couldn't play any sooner. And he also brought on Stanisic for Alphonso Davies. And obviously, I think Kimmich really changed the game in a positive way for Bayern. I think their forward momentum changed, but at the same time, Stanisic obviously one of the key players later in the game. Talk me through the second half a little bit and how the game, in your view, changed with the changes, be it Modeste for Özcan or Adeyemi for Malen, or the other way around, I think it was.
Kind of a broad question.
It is, yeah.
I mean, I think I don't remember when Bayern were last this poor in possession as they were in Dortmund fixtures, because I can't bring myself to watch many Bayern games outside of that. But I can't really remember when they were last so poor in possession as they were in the first half, and obviously that wasn't going to be the case for 90 minutes, because we are still talking about Bayern in a game they take quite seriously. So Bayern's changes, I think Konstantin basically talked about them already. They were much more on the ball in figurative terms. Kimmich helped. Not having Gnabry, who's completely out of form from what I can tell, also helped. And I think Dortmund were suffering a bit from maybe investing a lot in the first half defensively, or also maybe from a mental side of being down without allowing a single scoring opportunity, which is kind of demoralizing, especially when playing against a team where of which if you're going to give them scoring opportunities, they might put 4, 5, 6 past you in a hurry. And I guess the second goal, I don't quite remember when that came, but certainly there wasn't necessarily a feeling in the Pollmann household of a comeback.
53rd minute is when it happened.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, most of us would probably have thought, oh no, the floodgates have opened and release the Kraken or whatever.
Yeah, I actually thought at halftime, as Hummels came off and Süle and Schlotterbeck as a centre-back pairing haven't covered themselves in glory, let's say, often in recent games. So that's where I already thought it was going to be like a 4-0.
Yeah, but then I think Bayern suffered from not having Lewandowski, or I don't know, Mane not being the most clinical player at this point in time, or whatever it is, but they certainly didn't play out their attacks well enough. They didn't have too many great scoring opportunities. They had a couple of decent chances to make it 3-0, which would definitely have killed the game, but to his credit, Alex Meyer did pretty well against a couple of those. I think he had a save against Musiala, for example, if memory serves.
According to Understat, actually the highest valued missed chance, because Understat says it's 0.58, the Musiala chance, versus Modeste's 82nd minute 0.51. I didn't see it that way, but okay.
Yeah, who's to say? And that kind of kept Dortmund in the game, I suppose. And then I think the more important change for Dortmund, despite Modeste obviously scoring at the end and assisting Moukoko, but from a playing style perspective, was actually being able to bring on Adeyemi, whose sheer pace and ingenuity, or however you want to call it, on the right wing, especially against Stanisic, who looked not ready for prime time, as it were. Despite, I think he's reasonably likely to start for Croatia at the World Cup. I'm not necessarily entirely sure, but still. I think Adeyemi is kind of the best sub option Dortmund have at the moment, and he certainly gave them a lot more impetus going forward. They had someone they could just give the ball to and say, go ahead and do something for us. And to his credit, Adeyemi delivered a couple of moments that I think, even if they weren't necessarily hugely dangerous, they showed Dortmund that the game wasn't over. And then obviously you had the fantastic striker goal by Moukoko. I mean, the setup, his move, the finish, all just textbook striker stuff from a 17-year-old who's really coming into his own over the last week or so, I suppose, because he wasn't starting before the first match against Sevilla. A nice assist for Modeste. Not so nice how he missed the big chance. I don't know necessarily that it was the sitter that everybody was saying, because it wasn't positioned perfectly for him, and I think the only perfect position for Modeste is probably with his head and not his feet. But yeah, obviously he has to put it that way if he wants.
I mean, I would say he just used the wrong foot. He swung at it with the right foot. I think he should have just poked it home with the left foot. But that's how strikers are. They have a strong foot, and they tend to prefer that one. That's what I would say about the situation.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. I mean, he has to score that. That's why they signed an experienced striker who's got 2 20-plus goal seasons in the Bundesliga on his record. But obviously,
and if you watch all the goals that he scored for Cologne, it's not like he not scored goals like that before. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, and obviously, if the last few weeks had gone more positively for him, I think there's no doubt that he puts that away, but that's the psyche of a striker for you. And obviously he still had the moment of redemption at the death, but I think we need to give most of the credit in that situation to Nico Schlotterbeck, who showed incredible composure for a centre half in the opponent's 16-yard box in the 95th minute against Bayern. To keep the ball not only in play, but also to have the wherewithal to play that beautiful cross that somebody had to at home, and all the bets are for it to be Modeste.
Yeah, what I really liked is that he, in a post-game interview, said that he actually saw Modeste. So he sort of admitted that whoever was close to blocking it might have been Stanisic, who obviously took way too long to close him down, but he said it was nearly deflected. Sort of millimeters, but for him to pick out that cross, just eat your heart out. What a moment, really. And it's great to see that Schlotterbeck redeemed himself a little bit, if you will, after not so great performances. I heard Konstantin's quips about Schlotterbeck earlier on the Rasenfunk, where he said that his decision making still could be a little quicker. But I still think that compared to other performances he had this season, this was one of the better ones. So I'm very happy for him. But Konstantin, what I find very interesting, maybe this is a podcast more about how crap Bayern are than how good Dortmund are, but the final, I don't know, 5-6 minutes or so, and especially in stoppage time after Coman sending off, Dortmund basically had a power play. Alexander Meyer was in the Bayern box for almost like 2 minutes, and I was just waiting for Bayern to score an empty net. However, and it is very rare to see, I don't really remember the last time it happened, where Dortmund really in the final minutes of a game against Bayern were the team that, looked like they were the fitter team and looked like they had more energy and looked like, they could pile on pressure and, not allow any relief from that. So Can you talk me through how that whole thing unfolded and why Dortmund, or how Dortmund managed to put Bayern under so much pressure that they basically just pumped it out the box and couldn't really follow up on it? Because usually Bayern are very good at sort of gaining the second ball and then, putting their own pressure on an opponent from there.
Well, because Bayern were spent like hell. First of all, of course, they changed the entire back four. If you compare the back four at the beginning of the game and the back four at the end of the game, completely different. Each position was different. Of course, Pavard and Upamecano are still, at the end of the game on the pitch, but in different positions. So that's the first one. I don't think that Goretzka was really ready to go the entire 90. Musiala second half, even he was like kind of. He was still there, but he wasn't really effective anymore. Then you got like Choupo-Moting as target player.
Well, is he really a target player?
No, but like on paper he was,
Yeah.
There were a couple of things that were really going against Bayern. I think they are just they have a kind of a tight squad. A couple of injuries or players not really fit, or especially if you look at their entire defender department, Luka is not there because he's injured, and Pavard is back, but it's kind of they got like 3 center backs, and then Davies is out, and Stanisic has to play, and he gets no help from Coman, by the way. It's also like Stanisic is like fighting for his life against Adeyemi, especially in the final 20 minutes or so, and then Coman is not helping in one bit. Not one. It's like he gets outmaneuvered, outpaced by Adeyemi. Adeyemi is like left, right. He's like he's like the speed button on FIFA. He's like speed button. Speed boost. It was a little bit ridiculous. But that's kind of the gist of it. I think Bayern were spent, and Dortmund, because of the Modeste substitution, they also switched it to striker formation. Moukoko more in that secondary striker role, which is much better for him. He's not really the center forward type of not a central striker type. That worked well. I think Brandt also did better when he was on the left. Then Adeyemi on the right was good, and also like Bellingham a little bit deeper. Operating out of that number 6 gap there next to Emre Can worked also better. And I think they were just especially Bellingham, Adeyemi, Moukoko, and Modeste. They had just more in the tank. It wasn't like Dortmund were all of a sudden playing much better football.
The very end,
still,
Moukoko wasn't even on the field, right? It was Azar.
Who?
But yeah, continue.
Moukoko. Huh?
I said Moukoko did not end the game. He was subbed off.
Yeah, but he was substituted in the 89th minute, so he didn't play the last the last 2 or so.
5.
Azar came on like seconds before stoppage time, so.
Yeah.
Moukoko. I meant like the final 20 minutes or so, and Moukoko played enough. 19 of these 20 minutes or whatever, but he was there. And I think because like Modeste came on in the 17th minute, and I think from there it really changed. And because before Modeste came on, and it was also on German television on Sky Germany, I think Lothar Matthäus made the comment. It's not really his game, Modeste, because Dortmund are not managing to get the ball into the box. And it was Lothar Matthäus, but it was still a good point. In that moment, 17th minute, Dortmund weren't able to get the ball inside the box. So, but still, because Modeste came on for Marlin, Terzic switched it to a 2-striker formation. Moukoko played much better because he was now more behind another more physical striker, and Brandt was back, moved outside. Adeyemi was in a clear right winger role then, and it looked much better. Because then you got the Bayern defenders occupied. You got Bellingham, who is marching down Goretzka and Kimmich. Also Kimmich, he had to come on at halftime because Sabitzer got the yellow in like the first 30 seconds or something of this game, and the Nagelsmann was like forced to get Sabitzer out of there. So so Bellingham was marching him down. Brandt was playing that hybrid role quite nicely, even though he had not really as much support from Guerrero on the left. And I think like all of that worked out well. Still, Dortmund scored 2 goals. It wasn't like kind of incredible magic or something, especially in the first goal. I mean, Modeste, good pass to Modeste, good movement. Still looked like a truck, turning around. But I mean, it was against Upamecano, who also looked like a truck something turning. So it was quite well. It was like the battle of buses. And Modeste won that one, and great shot by Moukoko. In the end, it was a bit of madness. And of course, Stanisic, being the third division player he sometimes is, still helped Dortmund a lot, because Adeyemi was like destroying him, and then he got the support by Marius Wolf. Also, I forgot to mention Marius Wolf. Wolf offensively in the final 20 minutes was great. Defensively, he was utter shite, but it's all right. At least offensively, he was of course doing very well. And when then Coman was also out of there in the 90th minute, and for the final 5 minutes of stoppage time, Wolf and Adeyemi were destroying that right side.
Yeah, most certainly that was the case, because Bayern just could not relieve anything from the pressure. And I must say, when Modeste put that header in, I was screaming at the top of my lung. I was standing in my living room yelling like Dortmund had won the game. So in that case, it certainly did feel like a moral victory. However, we can obviously talk about that maybe Bayern were for the taking in this one, and maybe of all the recent games, maybe it was Dortmund's best chance to come away with all 3 points here. But, it is what it is now, and Dortmund did get 1 point out of this. Lars, I'm going to very carefully ask this question, because I've been let down and disappointed so many times. But do you think that this can give Dortmund a boost somehow, or do you think the next away game, say Union Berlin or so, all of that magic is already forgotten?
Are we talking about the same football team, Stefan?
Yes.
I mean, given our experiences over the last few years, how confident are you personally that that kind of moment will give them a huge boost for the next 10 games until the World Cup, on a scale of 0 to 1 million?
Minus 500,000, I would say. I would actually say this could be detrimental now. I heard someone say on a podcast now they're sort of smelling themselves a little too much, where they think they're it and aren't. I feel like this could even have a detrimental effect on Dortmund. I do not believe into any boost of any game ever, because they won the freaking Revier Derby and then they shed the bed in Cologne. That's my point. But I still thought I'd ask. But Lars, did you throw your beer cup around the living room or wherever you were sitting in the Pohlmann household when Modeste scored the goal? Or did it not do this trick for you as much, because you do not believe in quote-unquote moral victories?
It would have been a mug of tea, and I don't go around throwing mugs. Oddly enough, I suppose. Obviously, I was quite happy with that moment. I also watched the entire game without commentary, because I couldn't be asked to listen to Wolf Fuß and Lothar Matthäus, even though Matthäus isn't actually a terrible commentator these days, but I just couldn't be asked to listen to them. So the goal also showed just how explosive, let's say, the Yellow Wall still can be. Obviously, I was in the stands for the goal from Moukoko against Schalke, and that was quite loud, but I imagine almost, given that it came so late in the game, against Bayern, it might have been even louder.
Probably, yeah. No doubt. I would certainly say so. I mean, the pandemonium on the Yellow Wall was crazy, and obviously all the commotion on the field too. I mean, the entire der ganze BVB ist auf dem Rasen, as the net radio commentator Boris Ruppel, I think was it, said during the Malaga final. But nevertheless, I think this is at least very important in terms of self-confidence and obviously also the table situation, because I don't know if we want to talk about a title race or not with this team. I'll be honest, I don't really see it, but at least, the minimum is to not lose against Bayern twice a season, I think is very important. So at least from that standpoint, Dortmund have done that. And Konstantin, you already said it earlier, Lewandowski was not there to score. And I personally take a lot of pleasure from that, because it's been so annoying to see him score on Dortmund 1 million goals in recent years. So just for him to not be there, I quite enjoyed. And obviously every goal against Bayern is also scored on Manuel Neuer, which adds extra pleasure for me. And I've even mentioned this weird moment after Mokuko's goal where he sort of bundled Neuer over. I'm not entirely sure what happened there because the camera cut in a weird way, but also quite an enjoyable moment. And Konstantin, I think what all people will remember from this game is also the reaction of Oliver Kahn in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, what do you want me to say? It's a meme now. It's the meme of the game is Oliver Kahn sunken or like falling into his chair within the VIP lounge or whatever that is, like the VIP section of the Westfalenstadion, which is also kind of funny because like usually you see Aki Watzke and me Matthias Sommer sitting there, and Aki Watzke, with like a chin that has a chin that has a chin. Like his head is a little bit inside his body already. And the more chins he has, the worse the team is playing. It's kind of, you can read it actually. You don't have to see the pitch. You don't have to see the scoreboard. You just have to see.
You're just counting the chins.
You just have to see the face and the physiognomy of Aki Watzke and how many chins he has at any given time. And Matthias Sommer is like not twinking eye, is like whatever. Give me my goddamn money. I'm your counsel. But I mean, like we make fun, of course, of Oliver Kahn, like I don't know, like going crazy there. On the other hand, I kind of liked it because that Klassiker, or whatever you want to call it, because between Dortmund and Bayern, it felt a bit dead. Already, it felt that last season, but even this season, I was like, all right, is there really a rivalry? I mean, all these two clubs.
I mean, it felt very dead until the 70th minute.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was like dead in the water. Like, and then Anthony Modeste came on the pitch, and I was like, all right, I have to, give some help here, maybe a heart massage or something. But is really, I mean, there was this kind of feeling, all right, it's not really a big game, or not that big of a game anymore. I think the international interests or the interest from abroad has like really declined in recent years because no one really believes that Dortmund are on the level of Bayern. But then right now you look at the table, you see, all right, Berlin or Union and Freiburg are leading the table actually. Bayern are only in third, Dortmund close behind them, even though they have lost to Bremen and Cologne still. And then you got this match and you got the late equalizer by Modeste. He's like not kind of, I mean, he's a great Bundesliga striker, but he doesn't really possess like the kind of statue you sometimes think of, like, okay, who could decide the Klassiker? But it also makes it for a nice story because like everyone likes Anthony Modeste, and or most people like him, and he's kind of a cool guy. So why not? And then you see Oliver Kahn losing it, and I think like, all right, maybe there's more to this game than we had believed before or when we went in here. And I think that's kind of a good thing to see Kahn losing it in a way, because then you see, all right, if they feel something, we feel something, Aaron is feeling something, and that's good. But because, I mean, what could be the alternative reaction? Like Bayern, Bayern higher ups just sitting there, shrugging their shoulders, like, all right, lost 2 points, whatever. We will beat them anyway in the title race. that's like kind of that would have been in a different direction. And that's also what I like, that now Bayern's higher ups are not Rummenigge and Hoeneß anymore. You got new kids there, basically. I know Salihamidzic and Kahn, who both, to an extent at least, experienced some of these Dortmund Bayern games in the 90s, for instance, or like, some in the 2000s. Although, I mean, there was the time when Dortmund were like not a competitor, or almost relegated due to financial struggles. But still, there is this kind of rivalry there, and they were on the pitch for some of these games. And I mean, Oliver Kahn became famous in a way because of his outing in one of these games against Chapuisat and Herrlich and co. So I like it. I like that there is like younger Bayern higher ups who are now going a little bit crazy, and I also like that Oliver Kahn is like tweeting and like commenting on all of this, because it makes it much more interesting. And I mean, of course, then Dortmund fans have someone to hate, because they hated him when he was a player, and now they hate him even more because now he's like the suit wearing Oliver Kahn, who's like still kind of overconfident and cocky and everything. And they got Julian Nagelsmann, who's so easy to hate. Get Joshua Kimmich, who I personally don't hate one bit. I actually find him quite likable, but anyhow. But a lot of people hate Kimmich. Like a lot of Dortmund fans despise Kimmich, and they can't like Nagelsmann, who has head coach Hoffenheim and Leipzig, these two plastic clubs, and like what the hell. And now he's at Bayern, and he's like a 35-year-old know-it-all, and he's the smallest dude in the room, riding his longboard. Now Dortmund fans have something to also cheer against, and also be happy to at least get a point there. Because let's be honest, like, I mean, that game, I know that the Revier Derby still felt bigger, but Schalke doesn't feel the same right now, to me at least. It's not the same Schalke. It's like, it's kind of the Schalke where you have to almost feel compassion for them a little bit, because like, oh my god, they are like, they are so bad right now, and they don't have any money, and like, it's so bad for them. But you see Bayern, and they are still like, we lose Lewandowski, we buy Sadio Mane, and we have Oliver Kahn up there, and we have Nagelsmann down there, and we have Kimmich ruling the midfield, and Thomas Müller is still walking around telling anyone what to do. I mean, easy to hate for Dortmund fans, and so it's still fun.
Yeah, but on the flip side, we also had a very emotional Edin Terzic, which obviously was also due to losing a very close family member. I don't know when, but relatively recently. The news who it is, I think, is out by now, but I'm not entirely sure if he wants it out there or not. So I'm just not going to say it. I think it was a very fun experience, and I woke up today on a Monday morning in a good mood because of it, and that is of course very rare because it's Monday. But Lars, are there any final thoughts you have on this game? Anything you want to discuss?
No.
Okay. Then I think we can move on quickly to the Champions League game against Sevilla. And Lars, since you're so keen to get out of here, we can you can basically talk me through what Dortmund need to do in order to secure a round of 16 place, a knockout round place in the Champions League against Sevilla now.
Well, first of all, I apologize for my bedtime being in 30 minutes, but that's the way it is. I mean, Dortmund cannot qualify for the knockout rounds without help from Manchester City on Tuesday. I'm kind of assuming, and I'm probably speaking for all of us, that City are indeed going to beat Copenhagen, even though it's in Denmark, I suppose.
It's the early kickoff.
Yeah, and I think they don't even need to beat them. I think Copenhagen just don't. If Copenhagen don't win and Dortmund beats Sevilla, it's over. I think.
Yes.
Those are the permutations. I think the first part is probably going to be a bit easier because City with Haaland and Foden and all those guys being pretty much in very good form over the last few weeks, that should take care of itself almost. For Dortmund to beat Sevilla, I basically have no idea what changes the new manager Sampaoli might implement or has already implemented. I already saw that they drew against Athletic Club on Saturday or Sunday, probably Saturday, 1-1. And Terzic today said that Athletic were probably a bit closer to the winner in the second half. I mean, ultimately, given the state of the group right now, Dortmund are basically through already. I mean, a lot needs to happen for them to mess it up. So it would be nice to get it done early so you can rest players on the final 2 match days. I don't think necessarily these days it's hugely important to come first in the group, and even then I think that's a tall ask, even with City coming to Dortmund in the return fixture. So just get it done and give some much needed rest to someone like Bellingham, Özcan, and a few others in the final 2 group matches.
Yeah, Jude Bellingham obviously missing final team training today, so was Rafael Guerreiro. I'm not entirely sure if that means they are out for tomorrow or not. And the good news is that Mats Hummels is seemingly ready to play, and Terzic also said that Giovanni Reina will hopefully be available as well. So he looked very optimistic about that because Reina did increase his load in training. So there's that. I don't know what else to say really about this game. I assume that Dortmund was helped a little bit by the run of play in the first fixture against Sevilla, but now they play at home, so they've got that going for them. And I think in the Champions League, especially for Dortmund, that matters, given their away record, which would have been, I think, a new club record had they lost in Sevilla as well, a new negative record. So I'm pretty much out of things to say, so I'm not sure if I should dare to ask Konstantin a question about it or not. Konstantin, final thoughts on Borussia Dortmund against Sevilla, and then we can all get out of here.
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm just interested in Sampaoli because he's a kind of a fascinating figure. Although the first match against Bilbao, I mean, I know I wasn't much to it in terms of like Rojo Sampaoli football. It was almost more like Ernesto Valverde doing his best to beat Sevilla. It didn't work out, but still, I mean, Sevilla, they benefited from a very early goal by Oliver Torres. I think it was Stolberger.
Who's not going to play for some reason.
But still, I mean, just in terms of like, the match, how it went, it was a very early goal, Dolberg on Torres, and that was it from there. And I wasn't really impressed by Sevilla, but I could also see Sampaoli pulling a few things out of his sleeves. All of those who have followed his career, I mean, know that he can do that. Although I think he's more of a coach who needs a bit of time. And also to figure out who of the players are actually useful to his ideas and who are not. I don't think he might not be able to do that within like a week or so, right? So it might be a bit more time he needs to really mold Sevilla to his liking. So yeah, and they will travel to Dortmund. Yeah. Spanish teams away, especially a team like Sevilla, who are low in confidence and don't have an exciting football idea. It's like 4-2-3-1 easy. Even like sometimes with a more defensive minded number 10. It's like, all right, that's not really. I mean, it could be like an ugly win by them, right? Dortmund dominating the game, and then they will win ugly. However, that being said, last week's game, I mean, they were like the worst defensive team Dortmund has faced this year. I would say maybe of the German Cup or something. So I don't know if
it almost felt like playing against Dortmund in certain ways.
Yeah,
but
in a way it was like, wasn't it like, you got somewhat talented attacking midfielders, but you got Dolberg up front who is all right, but you see like there's something not quite there, and you got center backs who are somewhat talented. Nyang So, somewhat talented, right? For instance, like he was on the pitch against Bilbao again. He was like, you saw, I mean, he's a great ball playing center back, but you sometimes see like, all right, maybe there is some reason that he didn't make it at Bayern. So yeah, it was a little bit like playing against a copy of Dortmund. So that means actually Sevilla will go to Dortmund and surprise everyone and score a 3-0 win or what? No, I don't think so.
All right. On that note, I wish Lars a good night. You can follow Lars at Lars Pommern on Twitter. You can follow Konstantin at CC_Egner on Twitter. You can follow me at Stefan Butzko. And that is it from us for today. Good night, goodbye, and until next time.